All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Send you so much love. For those who celebrate, happy Easter. Today is a very revolutionary day. Sunday, Easter is the day of resurrection of Jesus. It's a big to the system, and everybody thought that he was dead. So today also it's surprisingly 420. So those who do that, well, make sure you smoke the ganja with Jesus, okay? I don't do that anymore. Just don't feel like it. Especially I'm already connected with him, so I don't really need that anymore, to be honest. I just do it just for just to be in the crowd and stuff like that, but just to numb also pain situations. But I don't heavily recommend to use it for when you're in pain or grieving or dealing with something, okay? Just a suggestion. Do it on when you're happy and stuff like that, or that's it. And use your discernment, because using it constantly, it creates problems, okay? Especially when you're doing it on a regular basis, right? So my recommendation for someone who used to be addicted to all kinds of things, and now I'm sober and just happily ever after, you know, and trying to, because it's very difficult what we're dealing right now, okay? Make sure you guys are drinking your waters and taking care of yourself while you also do this activism work. Also, for all those of you who live in Canada, we are in the early votes energy. And definitely after the videos I'm going to show you, I'm going to go vote and come back, so you won't even notice, okay? But we are on early votes day. But make sure if you can go to these days, make sure that you are going on the 28th of April. Forgot to mention that on my podcast. Yes, there's a new podcast. You go in the description below. It's going to be there on Spotify, but also it is published here on YouTube as well. Okay, so thank you so much for your like, your sharings, and tapping into that. Father God has a couple timeless message for you, all of you there. He also, I had time yesterday, I don't know where the energy came from, where I recorded another podcast, but he asked me not to publish yet. So that one's definitely going to be timeless, because I don't know when he just told me to record it. It's recorded, it's there. So if you hit the subscribe button, the bell, you will see when it's uploaded. Okay. All those of you in Spotify, you follow me there and you'll know when it goes up. So, especially because there's a lot of things that he revealed to me in the middle of the night last night. And yeah, just me and him and sharing messages for all of you. I do have a couple videos here, like I mentioned in the podcast before. So if you want to listen to the podcast before this, that would be recommended, because it will make sense what's coming up here. Some of the energy that was picked up last night is going to be here. So if you want to continue that energy, but if not, you can pick up here, is fine, and then go listen to it. So there's a lot of situations, and please, I beg you, make sure that you like, comment, and share, and subscribe, because this video is definitely going to be censored. He already told me that it was going to be for the podcast as well, and for other energies as well. So I already know, but this is why we have beautiful community here that likes and share. Oh, feels like I'm going through timelines and dimensions. I mean, yeah, that's really pretty much, okay? So before I start showing you videos, make sure that the content creators are being shown here, that you show solidarity as well, and you share it in your own communities. They're gonna have the handles, so make sure that you support the content creators. You check on my Telegram, okay? Check on my reposts on TikTok, check on my IG broadcast as well. I've noticed that a lot of people, I guess they joined the broadcast IG thinking that they could find something, or I don't know, trying to incriminate me or somehow, and now I see them out, because what I show there is the truth. And yes, it's gonna make a lot of people uncomfortable. So I understand. I know a lot of people feel like the truth hurts. It's supposed to, because we've been lied to forever, right? We live in a system that thrives of lies and corruption and oppression and racism and all the dark, low vibrational energy that you can imagine, right? Betraying, cheating, right? Doing stuff onto the rug. Like, I had to show you this video, and I just the evidence that constantly, and I have it also on Telegram, it just proves my point. The audacity, for real. Israel proven to killing a paramedics, and Gaza finds no evidence of execution. Of course they haven't. It's like telling a psychopath murderer, investigate yourself and let us know if you actually did it. And obviously, are they going to tell you yes? Because they don't want to go to jail, obviously, right? They don't want to be embarrassed or found out that they are actually actual killers. This is people who are trying to justify and still continue being the victims. So, and literally the news finally put this out there, which is the truth, it's the facts. There's multiple evidence that this is like, these people think this is a game. They need to be in the jail, like, for real. This is ridiculous.
Rifat's video is the most significant account of the morning's events. We've picked it up at 4:55 when more Red Crescent workers are dispatched to find out what's happened to Munza's ambulance crew, which had suddenly broken off contact. We hear the conversation already getting tense. After analysing the footage, Sky News has geolocated the exact route the ambulance took. We tracked the team, making its way through the dark, and see about 6 minutes into the video how they drive right past the missing vehicle they've been looking for without spotting it. We brightened the exposure to highlight the white vehicle more clearly. Markings on the van aren't clear from the footage, but we matched the shape, size and model of the vehicle to other emergency vehicles used in Gaza. Further down the road, they meet a colleague in an oncoming emergency vehicle who tells them the ambulance crew they're looking for is behind them.
صالح السيارة ورا؟ يا راجل استنى بدنا نستنى كمان سيارات. هاي سيارة معلول جاية.
So they turn around and retrace their steps. On the way, they meet up with other crews, also dispatched to find their missing colleagues, and altogether the convoy continues until they reach the white emergency vehicle that's crashed on the side of the road. They stop, get out to investigate. Then at 5:08 in the morning, the shooting begins. The sound of gunfire goes on for more than 5 minutes. We can hear Rifat reciting the Shahada, a Muslim declaration of faith, often uttered in the moments before death.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. تقبلني شهيدا يا الله.
Also among his final words, an apology to his mother.
يما سامحيني يما. هذه هي الطريقة اللي اخترتها يما. إني أساعد الناس. سامحيني يما. يما سامحيني. والله ما قلت هذا الطريق إلا لساعد الناس. يا رب تب علي. يا رب إن كذبتني من الشهداء تقبلني.
The attack doesn't end there. Sky News also obtained an audio clip from another paramedic, Ashraf Abu Labda, who was in a different vehicle. This is the first time this audio is being broadcast. Ashraf called the dispatch centre for help at 5:13. In the audio, we can hear the shooting continue, and he appears close enough to see the Israeli troops. At the end of the clip, we were able to make out some Hebrew, suggesting the Israeli forces were much closer than admitted by the Israeli authorities.
All right, now look at this. You know what makes me feel like, when a cheater gets caught and there's evidence everywhere, there's not, a cheater, a liar, a con artist, or corrupt, they get caught, there's multiple evidence, they're trying to cover it up, but they can't cover it up. Israel military says killing of Gaza medic was a mistake. I just show you that they're saying that there's no evidence, right? Even though there's plenty, I just show you that. But now this is the recent one that came out from the Royal News English. Like the lies is just, because the truth, it's louder than liars. Love and justice and clarity is louder than liars, okay? Than evil. Remember that. And no, it wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. And we all know that, right? So don't be fooled by this, okay?
I feel people need the reminder that this is the point of genocide. I see a lot of what type of people, what type of society targets children. I see a lot of headlines and content that are still slightly phrasing things as if children are an accidental casualty of this war, which is why it's important that we use the term genocide and not war, because that's the point. Children are the target. When you kill over 20,000 children, there's no way that you can claim that they're not the target, because that number doesn't happen accidentally. And that's the point of genocide, to kill the children, to kill the mothers who carry the children. When you kill the children, you kill the future. When you kill the vessels that carry these children into this world, you kill the future. Killing the future is the point. That's the point of genocide, is to kill until something no longer exists. And when you kill all the children, you kill the future. They're killing children on purpose. And for as long as I'm taking up space on this planet while shit like this is happening, I don't understand how some of you stay quiet.
اطفال، كل استهداف بيكونوا طفل، كل خبطه بتكون طفل يا راجل، مصور بجوالي كله اطفال، مش ولا زلمه كبير يا راجل، كله اهداف اطفال يا زلمه، نطلع على الكاميرات على الصحافه بنقول لكم خذونا على الفاضي، ايش نسوي يا زلمه؟ تعبنا احنا تعبنا يا راجل، كلنا يمين بنصحى قصف، بنصحى نوم، كل نوم ليل نهار قصف يا راجل، حسوا فينا اعتبروهم اولادكم يا زلمه. لو ان اولادكم ايش بتساوي انتم؟ تطلعوا كيف الدم يا راجل؟ دم اطفال. تطلع كيف يا راجل؟ هذا دم اطفال. الدم لما بترك على رجلي بس على الاطفال. شو يا زلمه؟ حسوا بينا تعبنا يا عمي. اطفال بينا تفديكم. حسوا بينا. وكل مره بنطلعكم كلكم حسوا بينا بشار الله. احنا تعبنا يا عمي. احنا بتصوروا لمين؟ حسوا بينا. بتصوروا لمين؟ سنتين بنشكي.
Today, April 17th, is known as Palestinian Prisoners' Day. Declared a day of remembrance in 1974, the date was chosen because it marked the release of prisoner Mahmoud Bakr Hijazi in the first prisoner exchange between Palestinians and Israel. As of today, April 17th, 2025, in Palestine, approximately 9,900 Palestinians are held in Israeli prisons, according to prisoners' rights organizations, and that is an underestimate, with roughly 400 being children and 3,500 Palestinians being held in administrative detention, which, as a reminder, is being held captive in jail with no formal charge or trial for an indefinite amount of time. While today's focus is on Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, it's also a day we honor political prisoners who are being unlawfully held in captivity all over the world that are central to the Palestinian cause. As we've seen with cases like Mahmoud Khalil, who was kidnapped from his home and is being detained for his beliefs threatening U.S. foreign policy, today is a reminder of the importance of speaking up for political prisoners. It's a reminder that so long as we live in fear and remain silent as our people are being kidnapped for fighting against colonialism, even through routes like charity work and exercising their right to protest, that no one is safe. A horrifyingly perfect example of what happens when we don't speak up is the case of my friend Nidat's father, Shukri Abu Bakr, who in 2009 became a political prisoner who is currently serving a 65-year sentence for his charity work for Palestinian children. On Eid Day of this year, per my request, Nidat recorded a video on the importance of speaking up for political prisoners that I hope you'll take about 7 minutes to listen to. And may it inspire you to speak up for those who have been stripped of their rights for doing exactly that. Because if we allow them to silence one of our voices, they will eventually silence us all.
He should have been here. My dad should have been here today. Hey, I'm Nida Abu Bakr, and today's Eid. It also happens to be my son's 5th birthday. And my dad couldn't be here today. He should have been right here, laughing, singing, maybe even picking up a guitar. I don't know. But he should have been here. Unfortunately, he can't be here because he is currently locked up in a maximum security federal prison miles away from here. My father is Shukri Abu Bakr, the founder and CEO of the Holy Land Foundation, and he and Ghassan al-Ashi founded this charity when my sister Sanabin was born in 1987 with cystic fibrosis. He did what any other father in his shoes would want to do, and that is to give other children a chance at life. My sister was getting the best medical care in the world, and he thought, why is it any fair that she's getting this medical attention and the kids in Falastine are suffering? What makes her any different than those kids? The Holy Land Foundation was shut down in 2001 by the Bush administration under Israeli order, and then in 2004 I witnessed the violent raid, and they arrested my father for the first time. Now, he's been wrongfully incarcerated since 2008, so it's been 16 years. 16 years of injustice. And this just shows you that Palestinians have been targeted in the USA for decades. Everything happening to Palestinian Americans right now is not anything new. We have been constantly targeted for decades, and we don't talk about it enough. Palestinians are constantly dehumanized. My dad has been in prison for nearly 2 decades for simply feeding hungry children and sheltering the orphans because Israel uses mass incarceration as a weapon. They will imprison our scholars, our doctors, even children, and they will go as far as targeting Palestinians in America for simply standing up against the injustice happening to our people. You know, my dad is not just a political prisoner. He's a humanitarian. He's an artist. I mean, he designed this shirt. He's an author, a poet. He finds joy in music and joy being around his family. Our joy is a threat to them. Joy for Palestinians is a form of resistance. They don't want Palestinians to have a chance at life, and that is exactly what the Holy Land Foundation was doing. They were giving life to those children in need, and now they are serving life. And here I am navigating this world, navigating the activism life with the whole single parenting thing, and I can't thank God enough for giving me the best example. I learned what it means to be a Palestinian American activist through my father, and I learned what it means to be a Palestinian woman, a Palestinian mother, through my mother. I carry my father's strength and my mother's love, and together their legacy. And I am so proud to be their daughter. I am so proud to be Shukri Abu Bakr's daughter, and no one could take that away from me. It's been a long fight. It's been 16 years too long, and I'm exhausted. I think we're all exhausted, but we have to use this exhaustion as fuel. This is the time for us to speak up against the injustice that we're facing. We have to continue to stand up against injustice. We have to continue to speak up for our political prisoners because they are the living example of the ongoing oppression, the criminalization, and the silencing that us Palestinians face. Not just in Palestine. The occupation follows us as Palestinians. You see it now with Mahmoud Khalil and the students facing repression. Speak up for our political prisoners because they are the compass of our struggle. And there is no free Palestine. We cannot talk about a free Palestine without talking about the freedom and liberation of our political prisoners. It doesn't work that way. No one is free until we're all free. As the daughter of a political prisoner, the only thing that I ask for y'all is to continue to speak up. We have to stay strong for each other, with each other, for our future generations, so that they can live in a free Palestine, a free and happy Palestine. And inshallah next year, he'll celebrate in a free Palestine with Seed al-Shukri.
Europeans have always been liars. This isn't about lying in the ordinary sense. This is about fabricating entire realities, legal, theological, cartographic, then killing anyone who didn't believe them. Europeans called the world undiscovered, while standing on thriving civilizations. The Apache didn't need maps to know their land. They knew where the water rose in spring, where the antelope migrated, and where a single footprint meant a traveler passed 4 hours earlier. Meanwhile, Europeans drew maps where entire continents were labeled as terra nullius, nobody's land, to justify stealing things they could never understand. To this day, land acknowledgements are needed because the truth was so systemically buried. Between 1600 and 1900, the U.S. signed over 500 treaties with indigenous nations. Every single one broken, ignored, or reinterpreted. The Apache relied on honor-based diplomacy. Truth was action, not paper. If a promise was made, it was backed by kinship obligation, not loophole-ridden documents. Europeans, on the other hand, wrote treaties in foreign languages, imposed deadlines impossible to meet, and used delay as a tactic of dispossession. A document in Latin isn't truth. It's just a spell of empire. The Catholic Church claimed it held the truth of God, then used that to justify genocide, rape, and forced conversion. The doctrine of discovery, papal bulls of 1452 and 1493, told Europeans they could take any land not ruled by Christians. Meanwhile, Apache cosmology didn't separate truth from ecology. To lie about the land was to break harmony with it, a crime not just against humans, but against the earth itself. Europeans burned libraries, retranslated Bibles to suit monarchs, erased oral traditions because they couldn't control a truth that wasn't written down. The so-called European Age of Enlightenment was founded on stealing, distorting, and rebranding global knowledge. They denied the circulation of blood until Harvey said it, though it was already known in Yoruba, Chinese, and Ayurvedic medicine. They claimed to invent inoculation, while Ottoman women, West African healers, and Quechua shamans had practiced it for centuries. The Apache knew the uses of over 500 plants in their region, while Europeans were still bleeding people to balance humors. Truth for Europeans was never about accuracy. It was about authority. When the U.S. government began counting Apache people, they counted full-bloodedness by phenotype, then altered that to strip land claims. The census became a lie told with numbers, not to describe a people, but to erase them bureaucratically. In Apache oral memory, you are who you walk with. not what fraction a settler writes on a form. Europeans, by contrast, invented truth that only existed on paper and killed to enforce it. The British called their empire free, while running the largest human trafficking operation in history. The French said liberté, while massacring Algerians, burning villages, and beheading resistance fighters. The Americans spoke of freedom while starving the Apache, exiling Geronimo, and kidnapping children for boarding schools. The lie was never just spoken, it was weaponized, wrapped in law, dressed in velvet, then dropped like a guillotine. The Apache didn't need lawyers to tell the truth. They lived it. Europeans needed courts, wigs, chains, and ink, because their truth was never real. It was always written, reworded, and revised to maintain control. So when people ask why we don't trust the system, it's because the system was built by people who'd never told the truth a day in their history. Cope.
Okay? Yeah. Like, constantly. This is generation of karmic cycle, generation of curses, of constantly lying, right? Comes from Europe, colonizers. And let's just remind ourselves that colonization back then was done by criminals and rejects and people who were fucked up in Europe. They came and colonized and changed and stuff like that. Also, I have a couple videos I'm gonna show you before I read this about what's going on. Like, it's on my Telegram as well. Like, literally, like I talk about this in my podcast as well, number 95. Okay, what he keeps saying, do what's like yesterday nonstop before I hit record. It was like, do what's right, not what is easy. Do what's right, not what is easy. Like, nonstop saying this, and it's on point because we are in this Holy Easter week where it was completely turned around to, anyway, she explained it better than I do. So, but before I go, wait, there's 4 cards that came up yesterday, and I was gonna do it on the podcast, but he was like, no, you're gonna do this in the video. So the first card, this is a deck, pray always. Okay, Luke 21:36. And this is not just using verse as a form to, it's just that as a verse, most of the words of God is protection as well. So I'm protecting me and protecting you as well, and giving you clues and signs and synchronicities when other people are trying to silence, not just me, but other people who are speaking the truth. The truth that the Son of God, who also I explained that in the podcast that is going to be released, I don't know when, but we dive into anarchy, was anarchism. So a lot of you, God has asking you to research that. He's been asking me, but last night was like, okay, you're gonna research it now while I'm recording. And I was like, okay. So we went for it, and it was it's a really good podcast, okay? Especially when we're talking about decolonization, dismantling, deprogramming, okay? And this is something that the system does not want you guys to know, because again, you'll be that person that will think for yourself, will take action, and will be with the oppressed people, and you will be against the state and the oligarchs and people who are psychotic and demonic, right? Then you also not only retrieve back your soul, you get back your empathy, right? Because that's the point, is to siphon and steal the empathy and replace it with selfishness, greed, like kind of replace it, like they steal your energy from you and replace it with their energy. So when the time comes, you're the one who feel guilty and feel like you have to pay their karma, because this is how colonizers act. And this is us breaking that cycle, okay? The next video is going to explain much better of this energy right now, okay? The next one is, and even the other videos about that. Oh, it's hard to. The other one is, it's something about protection of children. Our job is to protect children, especially in a demonic system like this, especially from oligarchs, billionaires who are obsessed with acquiring energy from children, the innocence, and then murdering and killing, that is their fetish. And they think it's okay because nobody's holding them accountable and because they have money. That should not be okay in the new world that he's trying to build. So this is why it needs to be brought awareness. It needs to be put in people's faces as a mirror, those who don't want to see, right? It says, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. John 14:27. Okay. And then these are scripture that he wants you guys to go ahead and read on your own time. For some of you, it could be some words in the Quran. Sometimes he does that to me. He lets me know from the Quran or from other books to acquire. For some of you, he's asking you, if you're a Muslim, to hold your Quran book, okay? For others of you, if you're Jewish and Zionist, of course, and you've been doing this work, he's been asking you for certain scriptures in the Torah that defines and it's really correlated to what I'm saying, okay? In the Buddha as well, all those of you tapping into your meditation, don't put God in a box. He is speaking to you individually in each and one of you in any way, type of form, and through your religion, through your cultures, through your music that you listen to, everywhere. He's omnipresent. And a lot of you said God, Father. I know I explained that too in the second podcast, and I said, maybe I called him Father God because I didn't have a great relationship with a father, and now I see him as a father. For others of you, you didn't have a good relationship with a father, so God for you is a mother. Take it how it resonates. He's both. He doesn't have, just like angels don't have a sex, and like we need to define something or categorize something. In this energy of the spiritual realm of God and source, there's none of that. That doesn't exist, just like time doesn't exist. Everything is made up. And no, I know it's hard to understand and even believe that, but that's what it is, okay? Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Luke 12:32, okay? Today we also got that scripture of I have overcome the world. I posted on my post on YouTube. He asked me to today, take heart, I have overcome the world. That, there's going to be trouble. Like he's letting people know, like that was before he knew he was going to get crucified on Friday. On the dinner on Thursday, he was literally saying this, like there's going to be trouble, but fear not, take heart, I overcame the world, okay? And then again it goes, be not afraid, only believe, Mark 5:36, okay? Again, there's a lot of energy about, if you're against genocide, and a genocide that is obviously against children in Gaza and Palestine, and also in the Congo, there's children, and in Sudan there's SA and all kinds of atrocities happening in the Sudan. And these world leaders trying to get away with horrible, horrendous things, inhumane things. Don't feel discouraged, okay? Like that's what he's saying to a lot of you. Like he wants you guys to be honest with yourself and continue being honest, even if it makes people uncomfortable, okay? It says, speak with love and truth. This energy is, especially for a lot of you, a lot of people just dress in masks and you're just, yeah. For others of you, there's a beautiful energy that it started also popping in last night. It was that this energy is trying to, rectify their wrongs and try to show with actions that they want to change, that they want to prove themselves, that they're not that person from the past. A lot of us have a lot of past. We make mistakes. That's the point. And then the point is to grow from those things and say, okay, I know I make that mistakes. Take accountability and change the behavior. That's really it. And then continue practicing the habit of changing that behavior. That's really what it is. But then when you have people that don't want to take accountability, they want to continue doing evil things even though they know it's wrong. This is where we have conflict, and this is where we have trouble. And this is why enabling this type of behavior is what causes situations and problems, right? Be in the present and dream of the future. So you can be in the future. This is something that Father God keeps saying. Don't forget that all the things that I've done and all the things that I preach and I talked about, and now all of us are in this energy, the Christ consciousness energy, at least those who are real and they don't you know, if you get triggered, that's fine. That's for you to heal. But there's a lot of people getting like, you know, your lie irritates their demons, okay? Know that this is normal. This is something that even the Son of God had to deal with, okay? He was murdered. And he knew he was going to get murdered. He knew it. But he also knew as well that he was going to come back and be like, what'd you say, motherfuckers? Right? That's today. Every year we celebrate this, and the system likes to put it in eggs and bunnies and stuff like that, and some type of ritual or something like that. It is a pagan energy, right? They're all finding eggs in the bunny and stuff like that. It is a fertility ritual that really cultists, demonic, have turned this, because it is. Today is the ultimate, you know, Friday was the sacrifice of the Son of God, and then today he resurrects. So they even take that energy to try to create their own bullshit, which again, it backfires 10 times full, which is why when you're aware, you like, oh, the illusion is off, and they go back to zero. And they hate it because they lose money, they lose people, they lose connections, they lose, because they're constantly stuck in this energy, right? So this video explains it better than I can.
And while most people are out celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ, let's talk about what most folks conveniently forget. Jesus didn't chill with the elites or was into organized religion. He rolled with the outcasts, the rebels, the sinners, and the sick. He wasn't out here for applause. He was a way shower. And when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the light, he wasn't talking about worshiping him. He was pointing to a consciousness, Christ consciousness, a frequency of love, truth, compassion, and divine awareness. That is the way that he was referring to. But you know who gets no airtime? Mary Magdalene, his divine consort, his equal, the feminine counterpart to the Christ. She was the embodiment of the divine feminine, wisdom, power, sensuality, and grace. And she and many other women were villainized and basically deleted from history by the church. Now let's talk about the real roots of Easter. Before bunnies and chocolate eggs, Easter was a celebration of the goddess. The egg, a symbol of fertility, the womb, abundance, the earth. But as usual, patriarchy came through like, let's just sprinkle some Jesus on that and call it conversion. Now, listen, before you go buy those shiny plastic eggs, mountains of chocolates, and decorations that will end up polluting the earth, let me drop one more truth. Please remember that the indigenous peoples of West Papua New Guinea are calling for a boycott. Why? Because brands like Kit Kat, Smarties, Oreo, Pantene, and Herbal Essence are connected to the eco side of their sacred lands. So this Easter, let's resurrect truth. Let's remember the goddess. Let's embody Christ consciousness. And maybe, skip the Nestles and decorate with intention, love, and awareness. Peace and love, y'all.
Christianity has been in Palestine since the inception of Christianity. Christianity was born in Palestine. And as many of you know, this is a holy week for Christians. Throughout the last 76 years, but especially the last 30 or 40, we have heard often that Israel's issue with the Palestinians is a fight between Judaism and Islam. And that is a lie.
ما هم يضربوش نسوان برضه.
Israel is a Jewish supremacist state by definition, and that means that anything else, Christianity, Islam, any other religion, any other ethnicity, is forced out violently. They hate us because we're Palestinian, not because of our religions. Happy Easter and free Palestine.
The other day, I was in deep communion with the earth, not just walking barefoot or admiring her beauty, but truly listening. And she had a lot to say. One message came through loud and clear. She does not consent to the horrors being done to the planet, to the exploitation, the violence, the pillaging of her body for profit. And then she showed me something even deeper, that the same relationship that many men have with the earth is the same relationship that they have with the feminine. Not one of reverence, not one of respect, but one of extraction. Using, consuming, and then discarding. Of taking without giving. Of wanting her beauty, her warmth, her magic, but not honoring her boundaries, her voice, her divinity. And it made perfect sense. Because the same consciousness that rapes and ravages the earth is the same one that sees women not as goddesses, but as a resource. To be mined, owned, and controlled. And as women, we must reclaim our sovereignty. We must exercise great discernment about who we allow into our sacred temples. Because in the ancient times, there are men who feared our power and would rather burn down the temple than to see it shine. But there are also men who remember, men who revere, who protect the temple and women, not to possess it, but to honor the wisdom, love, and intuition that we hold. Let those men reveal themselves. Let them rise, and let us treat them accordingly. Because the earth is speaking, and so are our bodies. It is time to listen. It is time to rise together.
Baby, there is a man on this app who has stayed on the necks of his color-redacted counterparts. And let me tell you, it warms my soul. All right, it just warms my soul. My favorite one so far is when he talks about how lazy his color-redacted counterparts are. As far as, when it comes to slavery, factory work, all of that type of stuff. Because I actually Googled, because I like to, use my smartphone to continue being smart. And I was like, how long does it take for cotton to grow? It takes 6 months for cotton to grow. Stay with me, okay? So it takes cotton 6 months to grow. And if you want to get on a boat from here to West Africa, it takes 2 months to get there and 2 months to get back. So that's 4 out of the 6 months. Okay. All they had to do is wait an extra 2 months and then just pick the cotton. You would rather waste time, money, resources to go travel along rough seas. Okay. To go pick up somebody to do a job you don't feel like doing. If that is not the epitome of lazy, I don't know what is. That's why every single time a Casper concubine or a fellow cornstarch crusader calls us lazy, it ain't nothing but projection.
All right, I just noticed it's getting very long, but if you wanted to stay, awesome. There's going to be other videos that Father God wanted me to post here to share, to confirm a lot of energies. I will tap into more deeper energy if I'm being guided to. But definitely one of them is that we talked about in the podcast about being woke in the woke culture and what it's really mean. Yeah.
Woke. It's a super divisive word, but most people who are anti-woke can't even define the word and don't know where it came from. So let's get smarter in seconds about woke together. The word woke, or the phrase stay woke, come from Black American English or Ebonics. Woke is an adjective that describes being aware of the reality of racial oppression and other social justice issues. Woke is really not a bad thing unless you have some insidious reason for not wanting people to be aware of oppression. The word woke was first recorded back in 1938 by Black American musician Huddy Leadbelly Ledbetter. He said,
I advise everybody to be a little careful when they go along through that, but stay woke, keep their eyes open.
70 years later, in 2008, stay woke remains part of the Black American vocabulary. It was used in a song called Master Teacher by Erykah Badu and writer Georgia Ann Muldrow. Stay woke was eventually popularized by Black social media users, particularly Black Twitter, as a rallying cry against anti-Black police violence. But then, in yet another demonstration of the Black community not being able to have anything nice, the phrase was co-opted by racists. Today, woke is used as a code word for anyone who is Black, young, socially conscious, educated, or just against oppression, just like DEI and critical race theory. The rampant misuse of these terms just demonstrates a lack of understanding, or in other cases, a blatant hatred for social progress and Black people. While there are many people who are very upset at the social consciousness that the word woke represents, one has to wonder why they're so upset with us for knowing what racism is, teaching about it, and fighting against it. It's almost like they're on the racism side, but I wouldn't say that.
Smarter in seconds.
Pierre Poilievre wants to be Canada's next Prime Minister, and he's standing behind a man who denies the genocide of our children. Aaron Gunn, a Conservative candidate, has called the mass graves found at residential schools a hoax, claimed our leaders asked for this evil institution, and outright denies that what happened was a genocide. When asked about his candidate's words, Pierre was quick to say that he's not denied the impact of residential schools. That's just misinformation. Let me be clear. Denying that there was a genocide is denying the impacts of residential schools and is an act of complicity in the genocide. What's more is that Poilievre was quick to follow up this rebuttal by making it about his plan to exploit more natural resources on Indigenous land by unleashing our potential at the cost of our sovereignty by getting gatekeepers out of the way. So if you're voting Conservative, you need to understand this. You're supporting a party that denies genocide, disrespects Indigenous sovereignty, and sees our sacred land as nothing more than profit.
All right, I want to say something about the columnist Richard Martineau, but if there's footage of me boxing, he might get afraid and call the police. So let's do raking instead. Last week, Richard Martineau, who has probably done more to feed hateful Islamophobia in Quebec than any other mainstream columnist, was confronted by the pro-Palestinian activist Yves Engler outside a pizza parlor. In his usual confrontational style, Engler asks Martineau why he supports the Israeli government, given that the Israeli government is committing genocide in Gaza. Of course, Martineau snatched Engler's phone, made fun of his stutter, and eventually called the cops because he's a little baby. Now, let me be clear. I'm not a fan of the confronting person on the street style of video, but when you're Richard Martineau and your whole brand is, I'm a tough guy who likes freedom of speech and confrontation, and then you get confronted, not assaulted, not insulted, but confronted over a controversial political position you have during an ongoing genocide. It is difficult for me to feel sorry for you. Now, I'm hardly the first person to point this out. Many people have, and yet Richard Martineau has chosen to single out one person, a woman, of course. He called her stupid, said her brain was the size of a peanut. He even tried to get her fired from her job because she left a comment on Facebook. One comment, liked by 10 people and later deleted. She didn't do a segment. She didn't do a column. She wasn't on the radio. She didn't do this on TV. She's a mother trying to feed her kid on freelance contracts. He's one of the richest columnists in Quebec, taking food out of that kid's mouth. Between 2006 and 2014, Martineau wrote 438 columns about Muslims in Quebec, almost all of them depicting them as a threat to our way of life, some of them associating them with terrorism. That's more than one column a week for 8 years. We know this because an Université de Québec à Montréal professor published a study linking Martineau's articles to a climate of fear and Islamophobia around Islam in Quebec. Now, in case you're unaware, all of this Islamophobia in Quebec culminated in 2017 when a gunman walked into a mosque in Quebec City and killed 6 people during evening prayers. Now, I am not saying that is Richard Martineau's fault. It isn't in any way. But he did contribute to a climate of hate against Muslims. So, take that for whatever it's worth. Now, Quebec's press council, which governs the way that us reporters are able to do our job, they give a wide latitude to columnists like Martineau. And yet he has still repeatedly been found to have violated our code of ethics because he uses the truth selectively and he peppers his columns with hateful stereotypes. Maybe I wouldn't be so hard on the guy if he showed a modicum of humility or introspection, but he fucking doesn't. He doesn't care because he got rich and fat off of making people angry and feeding into their most base impulses. So cry me a fucking river.
I need to show you the hypocrisy here. This is for fucking demonic IOF bullshit. And then, look, literally, protecting them, nothing, right? People against genocide. Fucking racist, right? And justifying genocide, murder, killing. This is white supremacy. This is us being anti-genocide and anti-colonial, anti-white supremacy, a better world. This. And then we have white supremacy fucked up, demonic, and protecting their investment. Bullshit. Tens with a bunch of children and family in it. What the?
My message to any Canadian politician is listen to the people and impose a two-way arms embargo on Israel.
Sanction Israel, stop sending arms to Israel, stop being complicit of the genocide.
Listen to the people out on the streets today who have come to make their voices heard, to demand an arms embargo, for a ceasefire in Gaza, and to support the people of Gaza in their struggle for liberation.
I don't want to hear about the international community. I want Canada to stop supplying arms now. That is what I want.
Who do you represent if not us? We're here on the streets as students, as citizens, as voters, telling you that we want a ceasefire, that we want a two-way arms embargo. Who are you representing if not us?
We have tens of thousands in Ottawa and hundreds of thousands, millions in Canada to tell you, stop the hypocrisy, arms embargo on Israel right now.
Arms embargo right now.
There is nothing you can do to convince me that this was revolutionary or a win for feminism or whatever they're calling it. Considering the times that we're in, I think that this was the biggest fuck you to everyone. It's giving let them eat cake. And you know what's wild? This 11-minute stunt to barely space emitted no less than 75 tons of carbon emissions per passenger. Also, the part that absolutely has me gagged is that this trip cost $28 million and some of these women paid to be there. You mean to tell me that you had this amount of money at your disposal and you chose to use it to boost your name and your title and your resume so that people can look at you and say, this woman represents us because she went to space? I can't help but think that these millions of dollars could be going to medical aid for Palestinians, that money could be going to covering food insecurity in our country or trans youth. Like, I could think of hundreds of causes that would urgently need that money right now. But no, I think this is a distraction to what's actually happening here and in the global south. And if you're bringing in women and representation and identity politics, I think this is the biggest fuck you.
Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. Yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying.
I'm sure you've heard the news about Harry and Meghan's foundation. This is what really pissed me off in their statement. Irony of using this symbol as an excuse to cancel the grant. I mean, they're saying that, they don't like these hate-fueled symbols. It's not the symbols that are hate-fueled. These two symbols were used for thousands of years, by Buddhists, Hindus. I mean, this was the flag of Morocco. Here's what nobody's talking about. The founder of the Jesuits, Ignacio de Loyola. He was both a Marrano, aka a Jew convert to Christianity, and an Alumbrado, which is the OG Illuminati. Now, if you just Google this, you'll see the very clear link. You'll understand instantly. The founders of these cults appropriate these symbols. They are the continuation of the exact same people. They don't hate each other. They pick those symbols specifically. It had such a deep spiritual meaning, can easily infiltrate your subconscious, and then this becomes the norm. Anywho, going back to celebrity foundations, it is no coincidence that all these toxic people somehow have a foundation. Number one, it's a perfect way for tax evasion. Number two, it's great for PR. Just look at the stats.
Now, I'm gonna go do some voting, okay? I'll be right back. But for now, watch the videos and I'll be back. Make sure you're Canadians, go vote, okay? And remember the message that I will put here in the description below, or it's gonna be here. Hopefully I remember to do it. There's a message for all of y'all that he keeps saying. Conservatives need to, okay, back to hell. And that's our job to do so, okay? Taking our sovereign free will and doing the right thing with our actions, okay? Liberals, they have to pledge vote Palestine. Go to votepalestine.ca, go do your thing. You can go to Smart Vote as well and check out in your communities, in your area, before you go vote, you know, be smart voting, vote smart, right? And check what's going on, or if they're doing, you know, like, our energy is to look at Liberals, NDP, and Green Party, and FAC Conservative, and NP, whatever, Quebec shit, especially those who live in Quebec. Just saying. The Quebec energy is the exact same conservative. It's the same thing. I don't even know what, I mean, obviously they're calling themselves a different party because Quebec, they consider themselves a different entity from Canada. It's literally conservatives. It just masqueraded in a different name. It's the same thing. They're the same racist demonic energy. So a lot of us, there's a bill that they're trying to pass and I see why for the NDP leader, why people see him as because that's your internal racism, right? Because he has a thing in his head, right? And he's, right? So a lot of people see him, oh, he's an asshole, whatever, but that's your racism talking because you haven't met this person. You haven't looked into it. You haven't checked. And it's not about the politicians at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, politicians are not going to help us. No. But we need to make better decisions so that we don't end up doing the same mistakes as other country has and is dealing right now, right? So right now, if you see, if the Liberals are up there, great, in your area, and the MPs in your area Liberals, okay. If you see that your NDP and Green Party is low, that's what Father God is saying. For a lot of us, we are not even allowed to vote Liberal. So I know right now that I'm in this area for a specific timeline and reason. And I see why. I check my Smart Vote and I check my area and I said, okay, so I don't have to worry about the conservatives so much, but I do have to worry about NDP and Green Party. So this is why for a lot of y'all, God will ask you, go check your Smart Vote, check if, you know, and a lot of you, if your community is in conservative higher than Liberals, that's your job to make sure that it's down, okay? Just saying. Remember that I do have a couple of videos here to show, like, I don't know how many times I have to prove to all of you that, and please go check out my TikTok repost. There's one that this girl has checked, seeing that about this bill that I'm talking about in Quebec, and also the conservative, what this Poilievre is trying to do. Like, we really cannot have a Trump energy here. Like, our job is to fight back against this energy, okay? Although Poilievre is all lies and lies and lies, as a colonizer Europe, European can stop lying, right? Remember his words, okay? So I'll see you after I come back from voting. Bye. So I'm going to give you a little context of what smart voting is. So we go to smart voting before you vote. Check out your location. What are the MPs that are, you know, these are the ones that Father God said, no. But obviously in my area, this is the projection that they're estimating. Okay. Either way, it's better this than the blue. No. Okay. The voter projection so far today, definitely this needs to go lower. Okay. Anyways, Father God wants you to go to vote Palestine. Sorry, need to blur my postal code, but right away, Green Party, this is confirmed what he's been saying. You are gonna not vote liberal because this guy has not pledged for Vote Palestine. And these are the demands on the website. You can check it out yourself. Also, he wants me to show here why we have who's endorsing this and why is it important to pay attention to who it is. Okay, it is very important, he says. But this is something that, this is a hell no, especially they haven't pledged. But he wanted me to show you parties that have endorsed the Vote for Palestine. Remember these names, remember who they are. These are important light worker chosen people. Okay. Early bird. Vote it, vote it, vote it. Thinking about people with disability. Love you, go vote.
The United States government didn't stop killing black leaders because they had some moral awakening. They stopped because they didn't need to anymore. Once they wiped out the radicals, Malcolm, MLK, Fred Hampton, all of them, the revolution got cut off at the knees. After that, why waste a bullet when you can just kill a movement before it even starts? By the 80s, they swapped out black power for black profit. They handed out a few golden tickets, made sure there were just enough rich and famous black faces to sell the idea that the system works. Instead of liberation, they handed out contracts, endorsements, executive positions. Instead of black power, they gave them black excellence. And look, ain't nobody saying black folks shouldn't be successful. But success inside the system is not the same as dismantling it. They let a few through the gates just as long as they played by the rules. And those rules, stay in line. Talk about personal success, not collective struggle. Build a brand, not a movement. They don't gotta assassinate anyone when they can just buy them out. Or better yet, turn them into a joke. Look at what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Stood up for something, got blackballed out of the league. Angela Davis spent decades on FBI watch lists. Fred Hampton, they learned their lesson from him. Don't let him get big enough to matter in the first place. So now, they just lock them up before they can get too loud. Call them terrorists. Call them extremists. Turn them into a headline, a mugshot, a social media circus. And for the rest, they dangle the American dream in front of them like a carrot. Work hard, climb the ladder, keep your head down, but for whose dream? Black median wealth is projected to be zero by 2053. They never fixed redlining, they just rebranded it as gentrification. They never ended Jim Crow, they just turned it into mass incarceration. More black men in prison today than there were enslaved in 1860. That ain't a coincidence, that is by design. But the thing is, this ain't just about race. Yeah, black folks got the worst of it, but they ain't the only ones caught in this machine. They keep everybody distracted. Working class whites, Latinos, immigrants, poor folks of every shade, fighting each other while the real power stays untouched. They convinced half the country that a CEO with their skin color is their ally, while their own neighbor is the enemy. Divide and conquer, same as always. So the real question ain't what happened to the movement, it's how do we bring it back? Because if they don't have to kill revolutionaries anymore, that means we already lost once. And winning again? That ain't gonna look comfortable. It ain't gonna look polite. The next wave of revolutionaries are gonna seem too much at first. Too radical, too angry, too unwilling to compromise. But that's the only way to go forward. The civil rights movement was called extreme in its time. The labor movement was called un-American. Every fight for freedom has been smeared before it's been won. So what's it going to take? Because if history's got anything to teach us, it's that nothing changes till people get real uncomfortable. The system don't break itself. The question is, are we ready to break it?
I was a data analyst at Meta for 3 years before I started advocating against their censorship of Palestine internally and was fired as a result of it.
I am a former Google software engineer. I used to work there for 2 years, and I'm a worker organizer with the No Tech for Apartheid campaign. And last April I was fired for sitting in to protest the Project Nimbus contract that Google has with the Israeli military.
I was a data analyst in the Global Business Resilience unit within Meta. What led me to quitting is that the severe suppression and censorship of Palestinian journalists, activists in America, just made me feel so guilty for contributing to a company that's going towards the complicity of killing my family in Gaza made me want to leave.
It is evident that Meta is censoring Palestine. There have been numerous reporting. Human Rights Watch came out with a 51-page report. Even US Senators Warren and Bernie Sanders have written to Mark multiple times asking for explanations for the censorship of Palestine on these platforms. We have seen countless users, countless our own friends, our own selves being censored on these platforms, yet Meta continues to deny that there is an issue or that it is censoring Palestine.
Project Nimbus allows Israel to circumvent existing Google security measures, which is something that's completely unprecedented. Never in the history of Google have we allowed foreign country, let alone other companies, to basically take over security and management over a Google facility. And with Project Nimbus, we're constructing these data centers for Israel, knowing that they're committing apartheid, knowing that they're committing genocide, and basically putting our hands up and saying, you do what you want with this. Security and management over these data centers is yours. Train whatever you want on this. Surveil whoever you want on this. We don't really care.
Although it may be shocking, a lot of racists genuinely believe they are good people, and here are the top 5 ways they try to convince themselves it's true. Number 1, when they're called out, instead of taking accountability for their actions, they simply blame the person who accused them. They didn't do anything wrong. In fact, the other people are being sensitive and they are a good person, so therefore they can't possibly say anything racist. Number 2, by leaning heavily into cognitive dissonance. You don't know, cognitive dissonance is when you have 2 conflicting beliefs and that creates discomfort in someone. So they have to either change one of their 2 beliefs so that they can coexist without the person feeling overwhelmed. So instead of being like, oh, I am racist, I should stop being racist, they're like, oh, actually, I am a good person and what I said wasn't racist, so that they can balance it out. Number 3, by leaning on their racist friends for validation. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. Number 4, by blaming woke culture as a whole for the reason that they have been called out, because they couldn't possibly do anything wrong. It must be a societal problem. And number 5, by playing into the reverse racism myth. Not only am I not racist, but actually you are being racist to me as a white person, because that is the real problem in society. Bye.
So Christ is risen. Isn't that wild? I mean, a man literally rose from the dead. But you know what's wilder? We celebrate Jesus' resurrection all over the world as this like sanitized, feel-good, triumphant moment. But why? I mean, besides the fact that a man literally rose from the dead, why was he dead in the first place? There are the bells. Where was this happening and what was happening that he needed to come back? Okay, let's get into it. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ilian. I wrote a master's on Jungian dream analysis and occult symbolism, a PhD on political identities in Palestine. I'm a writer, teacher, tarot reader, and shapeshifter. Sometimes I'll turn into a cat. Meow. Now, if you remember, our main character, Jesus, was a Palestinian Jew living under Roman occupation. Palestinian and a Jew? How is it possible? The Arab-Jew binary is propaganda, babe. Linguistic and religious categories are not mutually exclusive. But anyway, Jesus was tortured, arrested, and then executed by this Roman military empire. Why? Because he challenged the empire's authority. And not just spiritually or religiously, the way that we're taught to think about it, but politically and economically. Remember, Jesus was healing the sick for free. He was feeding people for free. He was making tax collectors look like total idiots every time they had a public conversation with them. He was flipping merchants' tables over in temples. Jesus was preaching a kingdom that was not of this world. And we all know how much empire loves its consumers and its taxpayers. So they crucified him because even though he was a peaceful protester, he was a danger to the status quo. Empires don't care if you're peaceful. They care that you're obedient. Remember Samuel's words to King Saul in the Old Testament? To obey is better than sacrifice. To heed, better than the fat of rams. But where it gets really interesting symbolically to me is when they bury him and then go to look for the body the next day and find nothing. Because in burying him, or in trying to bury him, they're metaphorically trying to bury the truth. Because Jesus is the truth, right? Jesus is the way. Jesus is the light. When I think of it like that, not only is the resurrection just a great plot twist where like your favorite character comes back to life, but it can also be read as a metaphor for the things that can't stay dead, that can't stay buried. Because you can kill a person and bury the body. You can shut down and bury a movement. You can bury an entire people if you try hard enough. Call them animals, cut off their water, flatten their homes, bomb their hospital, ban their flag, rewrite their history. But you can't bury the truth. Somehow the truth always finds its way back into the light. And remember how after his last breath on the cross, the veil of the Temple of Solomon was torn, usually interpreted as the sign that God's old covenant had ended and the new covenant had begun. But when I think of Jesus as the truth and the story of his crucifixion and resurrection as the attempted burial or suffocation of the truth, the tearing of the veil is like the internet breaking open after October 7th. In those few days after October 7th, those few initial days, the truth was emerging. It was pouring out with an unstoppable amount of force. And for those of us who knew before the 7th, you could feel instantly the shift. You could feel that the cap was suddenly off, that the veil had been torn, that the old covenants, the old image of the only democracy in the Middle East just immediately fell apart. Because, I mean, you can shut people up, ultimately. They had been shutting us up for decades. You can pretend that it doesn't exist. You can avoid learning about it. But once you see, you can't unsee. And there has been so much to be seen in the last year and a half. So if you're a Christian and you are celebrating Jesus' resurrection today, and you are also a Zionist or a defender of Zionism, if you're still calling the Gazan genocide a war, then I think it's worth asking yourself on this most holy and magical of days, is it Jesus himself that you revere, or the crucifixion, the sacrifice that he made to help keep your conscience clean? When you pray, is it to Christ and to his Father, or to the empire that crucified him? And if he were crucified today, if Christ were crucified today, and I assure you he would be, considering his track record, if Christ were crucified today, would you be weeping by his tomb? Or would you be the one rolling the stone to cover it? Love you. Happy Easter.
Things in Palestine just keep getting worse. I feel so useless. What's the point of doing anything? Don't think like that. The world's waking up. Support for Palestine is the highest it's ever been. And the other side? Well, they're losing support and billions of dollars. They're scared. And don't forget, even the wind can't move without God's permission. So know this, the winds of freedom will pass through Palestine. You're not asked to free the land alone. So don't carry the weight of the world. Just carry your effort. Keep boycotting, keep speaking out, keep making dua. Do everything you can. Palestine will be free.
Alright, so that was part 1. So there's going to be a part 2 where Father God wants me to tap into other energies. What's the energy today? Especially all these truth and revelation that he's showing you. So he keeps saying Happy Easter, and I hope that you do better than 2,000 years ago. So free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, and continue talking and continue speaking, because he is very proud of those who are on the right side of history, the right side of him, God, and also who are right now advocating and protesting for his actual descendants of his son. Duh. Anyways, free Palestine. I love you, and I'll see you in the next reading if you want to come see it. It's part 2 of this energy. So let's see what he wants to let you guys know. I mean, now that he already let you know already, but glory be to God, inshallah, Palestine will be free. And all of us do. So this is for the collective liberation. Remember, do everything with joy and love. And yes, doing things with revolution, and yeah, it requires sacrifice and courage. Okay, so don't forget about what his son leave us behind and what he taught us. Don't let the system and the corruption and this disgusting white supremacy and programming leave you stray from what the actual lessons that he left us behind. It's to be there for the oppressed. It's to liberate everybody. Malcolm Martin Luther King said it. All of them. Nobody's free until all of us is free. And that's not just a fact. That's just a promise.